All right. I believe this means we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions. Welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast. Pretty much the worst podcast name you could come up with, but I hold to it because the QA, that's the important part, obviously stands for question and answer. So we like to make this a bit more of an interactive conversation, kind of get our week kicked off right. It's also why I like to hold my podcast on a Monday. We've had the whole last week to kind of sort out our feels, keep up with some of the news that's happening around us. We've got a really interesting mix up on news block this week, and the gadget block is going to be kind of wide open. We always make these jokes about like Techtober. Oh man, Techtober's in full swing. And as soon as you kind of get through the last couple major reveals, announcements, and products to ship, everyone starts spinning up for like holiday shopping. So November is right on the horizon. October is almost done. And that means we're all going to be putting together lists and affiliate links and things like that for like Black Friday sales and Amazon sales and all that fun stuff. So right now we're in that kind of like calm before the storm. There's been so little downtime from the summer. Usually there's like ebb and flow, right? And usually the summer just kind of tanks, and then we kind of pick back up for October. TK and I have been talking about this a lot, where we've just not had any downtime. So I'm a little anxious to see. Right now is like peak week for me to even try and get like some Pixel content out. The Google search is already waning on the Pixel 7 Pro. So I like, if I'm going to put the effort to put out a video, like I've got to focus on that. And I've got some other products that I really want to get to. And I've got some sponsorship deals that I'm really trying to work on. And those take forever. Like I've got a video on an e-bike done. And now we're playing the game of, well, I'm going to send it to the client and then we'll get some approvals. And you're like, this is why I have troubles doing numerous sponsored videos. Like my channel would be a lot more profitable if I could kind of keep up with the sponsorships, channel sponsors, but they take forever. And they want to occupy all of your time. And I understand why, because from their perspective, they're engaged with you in this one relationship. But it's also like, I've got other things that I'm doing. So you're on pause. I've got to keep going. So we'll see. That was a lot. Just to kind of explain where we're at in the workflow. I feel like I can finally catch up on a few products. But unfortunately, that also, it's like, man, this is like the worst SEO time of year to be putting out, like, here's a granular deep dive on this phone that came out last month. Last month. This is like exactly when we should be talking about a review, and you're like, but I guess this topic is dead. It can be really demoralizing. I'm going to try and keep spirits up on this one because a lot of the news out there this week has been a little challenging. There's been some really scary things happening in the news lately. And tech as a whole is like just hell-bent. Like creators and fans and enthusiasts are all just sort of like eating each other alive right now. So for this week, especially as we get into the second half of this podcast, where we would normally have a bunch of headlines and new releases and announcements and this reveal. I mean, we are going to kind of chat through some iPad reactions, but that wasn't so mind-blowing or revolutionary that it's going to occupy the whole section of that. Definitely keep some questions up. Definitely sort of focus in on some things that you'd want to hear more about, or some experiences we can talk about, and we can really get into that back and forth. Really focus a bit more on the conversation on all that. So, seeing a great crew, people here already in the chat. Coppa Cash, Simon says Hypno, Rosted, Soar Hunter, Dave Burns, Farhan, Puppet Jared saying, let's go, Magus. I think that catches us up. And then some people on YouTube. So, yeah. Oh, Baseball Super is giving me a little wave. Here's the thing. I understand we're TK and I are trying to do this co-stream through this one YouTube channel. And so this is now finding a home where we have a YouTube channel where together TK and I are sharing some of the long format stuff that always kills our channels. Like if I put a podcast on my main YouTube channel, YouTube decides that I'm terrible and it hurts my channel to put that stuff out there. So I know a lot of people seem to be excited about YouTube, but the compression is worse, the audio quality is worse, the chat tools and moderation are worse. So while I see people waving and stuff on YouTube, I'm probably still going to be focused in on the Twitch side, which is way easier for me to manage. And I think you end up with a higher quality stream. So, hello YouTube. Oh, Coppa Cash. The rumors on that are looking really exciting. I saw some early images of the Vivo X90 with that massive 1-inch sensor. Uh, um, I'm obviously a huge fan of Vivo, and I love that 1-inch sensor. We've seen it in play on the new Xiaomi. I'm like, I'm trying to keep my expectations in check because I really want to see what Vivo can do with that hardware. But it's also one of those things like until it's real, until I know there's a Vivo X90 Pro Plus, whatever it's going to be called, I'm not jumping in too much. So we'll see. But I want it so bad. So let's see. Oh, Sword Hunter, the sound seems much better this week. Was the sound off last week? I mean, not off, obviously. I mean, I heard myself ramble. I always have to do that mic test though because lately it's been weird, especially streaming and co-streaming. It's been really difficult to get a sense on what do you hear as the audience versus what I hear locally recording. And even going through something like Restream, I get a download at the end of every podcast and it sounds great. And then I'll go and listen to the stream and like, why did it sound so much different on stream than what they recorded? And I can't, it's like, I can't figure that kind of stuff out in real time. Dave Burns. Also, people on YouTube don't get to fight me. Yes, if you would like to argue with Dave, Twitch would be the way to go. Baseball Super, can you go through some of the drama of people eating each other's heads off? I didn't know that was happening. I'm being a conscientious objector. I'm not playing ball this go around. I'm really tired of the back and forth. I did a video. Was it a year ago or was it almost 2 years ago? And again, I didn't post it to YouTube because YouTube is a part of the problem. The platform encourages us to eat each other alive. Whenever we engage in this drama, we see a massive spike and a rise in traffic. We see back and forth, engagement, comments. All of that is to our detriment, and all of that hurts our mental health. All of that hurts our actual community, and it helps YouTube. YouTube only cares about time on site. This is the, we're going to jump right in. Housekeeping, nice weekend, blah, 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 blah. I woke up this morning to 2 different audiophile reviewers, both putting out videos. One person saying, I've got to take a step back. My health is being harmed by my video production process. I'm having to work with cardiologists that I've been so sedentary. I have to change up the products that I'm reviewing because it's hurting my health. And another reviewer, just like anytime I try to bring up a topic that runs afoul of the audiophile community, I get savaged for it. It's making me mean. It's making me angry. These are the types of videos that I'm putting out as kind of gimmicks just to try and wedge in other types of conversations that I want to talk about. And that's like in the audiophile community. We're talking about like high-end headphones and high-end speakers. This is something that's happening across all of our social media and all of our channels. Literally everything that a platform like this tries to encourage is more time on site. Anytime you speak with a YouTube guru about how to maximize your views and really put your trust in the algorithm knows what people want to watch. There is one critical piece of information that they are either not, maybe they don't believe in it, or maybe they're trying to sort of side run around it. YouTube is critically good at keeping people watching YouTube. But that doesn't mean YouTube is giving videos to people, the videos that they want to watch. Just like we saw from those Facebook experiments, it is way easier to kind of keep someone on a platform if you're scaring them or you're pissing them off, if you're degrading their quality of life. They're more apt to engage. Now, YouTube doesn't care if that engagement is positive. YouTube doesn't care if people are clicking that thumbs down button and leaving angry comments. And I really told that YouTuber, all engagement. It kept them on the site. It kept them watching more videos. It kept them clicking on the platform more. So there's like another round of just people backbiting and arguing. And I put out this video about 2 years ago just talking about fake tech tubers. And I've obviously had a number of criticisms for the tropes, the bad trends that I see running through our tech community. And I can't even really single individuals out anymore. I'll bring up like a review style like, I'm going to complain about the Pixel 7 Pro's gaming performance by only looking at a Geekbench score and talking about Genshin Impact. Okay, so you're going to put out some Genshin scores and they're not going to be as good as an 8 Plus Gen 1, and now that's headlines. Well, that's a real bad faith take on what the Pixel 7 Pro can do for gaming. Because the Pixel 7 Pro is better than the Pixel 6 Pro at gaming. The Pixel 6 Pro was adequate for gaming. We're not talking about what the product is, we're talking about what it's not. So then some people who are really big fans of the Pixel start chipping away at some of those bad faith arguments. Then those people get to amplify the message because they're sharing content that pissed them off. I shared a video or I shared an article that wasn't good, and we all need to go tell that person that it wasn't a good article, except that you just sent them a bunch of traffic. So anytime I bring this kind of stuff up, it rewards the person who I think made a bad faith effort in reviewing or talking about technology. I did this with Austin Evans and I did it with The Verge. What that mostly resulted in was sending a ton of traffic to Austin Evans and The Verge. So why would I do that? I was trying to highlight, hey, this is bad reviewing. This is not what we should be doing, talking about these products. And what did I do? I made them more money. I made them more money at the expense of my own channel, my own traffic, and my own mental health. So then it just reinforces that's the right way to review products because it got them more engagement. We're going to be talking a bit about YouTube and some stuff in there too. But, you know, for whatever's going on, me bringing up, hey, so who was it that I shared? It was a Hugh Jeffries video. So I read this article, it was in my Google feed. I ended up blocking the outlet that wrote this article. It pissed me off. I just thought it was a terrible take on technology. It seemed like by design, just the building blocks of how to write a rage bait article for fans of this smaller manufacturer. If you like this phone maker, this is going to piss you off. And it's also going to be hilarious for people who like Samsung and Apple. It'll just reinforce why Samsung and Apple fans are the bestest and the most cleverest and the prettiest, and they smell the nicest, and everyone is super happy, and this article will make more money. So I read this article, I'm pissed off, and I have that momentary urge. I want to shame the author of this article. I want to point out all of the logical fallacies and the bad appeals and the hot takes. Anything I do for that article is only going to amplify the article. It's only going to bring them more traffic. It's only going to bring them more engagement. It's going to help their SEO. It's going to help their scores. Google is going to rank them higher. There's literally nothing you can do to call that out specifically. I can kind of allude to it. Hey, here's a bad trend in what I see for battery life testing on a Pixel versus some of the other things that you've done. You're not comparing oranges to oranges. But I keep it really vague. I try to keep it really vague now. And also, it's funny, I'll bring out some of these vague arguments, and people are like, oh, he's totally talking about that one guy. And kinda, but not. I mean, this is now just a bad trend. And it's a bad trend that so many more outlets are falling into because it brings them more traffic. It brings them more success. It brings them more money. As we're watching kind of the day crescendo on consumer tech from 2 years of living in the pandemic and tech sales skyrocketing and the market trying to correct for itself, as we're steamrollering into probably a really terrible recession period. Every outlet is trying to find some way to bump up their views, bump up their clicks, get more ad revenue, get more sponsorship deals. And this is the easiest tactic. It's the laziest and easiest way to do this. So anyway, I read this article, I'm pissed off, and instead I write this tweet and I say, hey, I just read an article that was terrible, but instead of doing anything to popularize the article, I'm sharing this link to a Hugh Jeffries video that I think deserves more attention. Instead, you should watch something that has more value, a creator who shows their work, and someone who this community should be supporting. Hugh Jeffries, literally anything Hugh Jeffries makes should be getting an extra 0 at the end of its view count. And it has been discouraging seeing Hugh Jeffries gets huge traffic on a Samsung video. He puts together the same effort. He puts the same work into a Pixel video, and it's off by like a factor of 5 in terms of views. And that to me speaks to an algorithm that is not properly supporting the creator and is instead just looking at trendy little topics that will highlight a specific demographic and a certain group of people, and that's the easiest way to get the most clicks. But Hugh Jeffries has built a reputation and deserves the same fire hose SEO search support on any video he makes, regardless of the manufacturer. I don't care what manufacturer Hugh Jeffries is working on. I care about Hugh Jeffries. I want to see everything that he makes. I'm not so brand loyal that I only want to watch the Hugh Jeffries videos about Motorola. Like that person doesn't exist. But you know what I mean. So I shared the Hugh Jeffries video, and literally one of the first tweet replies I get is, hey, can you just tell me what the article was that pissed you off? And I don't reply to that comment. And then I get 2 DMs. Oh man, what really pissed you off? What was the article? What was the article? And I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think you can stutter in a tweet. Like, I don't think the message in my tweet was difficult to grok. The message in my tweet was supporting bad journalism by giving it more attention is ruining our hobby. I did not make any mistakes, and the clarity of my message should have been clear. But there was drama. Is there drama? Is there controversy? Is Juan going to call someone out? What's going on? And when you do that, you destroy the mental health of creators. I get it. You want to see what's going on. You want to know what's up. You want to know why we're angry or what's happening. I'm going out of my way to tell you that this is bad for us. I'm not engaging in it. And I'm trying to support creators who really do deserve the kind of emotional attachment that people put on drama, but instead because they do good work. Like if Gary Explains puts out a video, we should all be watching it and sharing it and commenting on it and giving that the boost. A learned individual who is raising the level of discussion and improving the educational value of our tech hobby. Instead, any mention or reference of drama just gets people lit up. And it's like 10-1. What traffic I got on my blog post for calling out Austin Evans was a factor of 100 higher than any of my other editorials written that year. And that's toxic. That's really bad for us. And I don't know any other way to handle it. So yes, right now we're in another phase of people snipping at each other and calling each other out and getting into these Twitter feuds, and it's great. It's great for views, and it's great for traffic, and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter are laughing all the way to the bank. But every time we do this, it makes the tech community less reliable. No one wants to join. Like we're not replenishing our ranks. We're not bringing new people into the folds. And when they do, when they look at what passes for commentary or conversation in our industry right now, we don't look credible at all. We look like a bunch of jokers with ridiculously stupid influencer thumbnails. And that's because YouTube generally finds that to be a successful strategy, but it's not one that engenders any type of credibility for people who are looking to spend a ton of money on a personal communications or computing gadget. They're going to look at all those thumbnails as a passive viewer, go, I'm not listening to any of these guys, and they're going to bounce right out. They're not going to stick around. They're not going to join our little Twitter debates. They're not going to sit there and argue in our subreddits and in our forum posts. They're gone, and they're not coming back. So I feel we're constricting our audience. There's a smaller and smaller and smaller chunk of people that are entertained by the tech. And we need to be the ambassadors, because the periphery of folks who use tech but aren't as entertained by the gadget, they want to know what you can do with the gadget. And then we tell them, well, this phone is terrible at gaming because one game. It got lower scores in that one game. You can still play the game and it plays really well. And all you have to do is maybe tweak a graphic setting and it's an amazing gaming experience. But nope, one game, got to throw it in the trash. That's all we can do. And then I go and look at a laptop reviewer. I look at like Gamers Nexus or Hardware Unboxed, and like, why can't we do that? Why is there so little patience and so little interest in really doing that? If I do all the work on that, you know what I'm going to be rewarded with? I'm going to be rewarded with less viewership and less engagement on my YouTube channel. But if I call out Austin Evans, man, I can add 2 zeros to my view count. So what do we want? What do we want to do? Because I know what helps me sleep better at night, but that's also running in direct conflict with what's going to help me pay my mortgage. And that's gross. And I hate that. So, not to pick on anyone, well, to kind of a little, but not to really call anyone out specifically here, but let's not do that. Let's be the change we want to see in the world. If you hear, oh man, someone's really going at it, mute them. Mute the conversation. You will be healthier in the long run. You will be happier for being healthier. And you'll probably stumble on some content that'll elevate the conversation, teach you more, and then help you get more out of your purchases. And the long-term effects of this is probably like saving money and really liking your tech better. So, Q3 Becker, you should start a new channel called Some Drama Guy. Oh, God. No, but you know that, like, on YouTube, whenever there's a genre, you know, like, I was a big fan of, like, horror and spooky YouTube channels. All of them are now kind of drifting into the real life, true crime stuff, because that's what's hot in podcasts. I'm not about that. I want to find creepypastas and ARGs and, you know, really warpier, mind-bending YouTube stuff, online video stuff, abandoned websites. Like, that's what really kind of clicks in my brain. Is like, I don't need yet another retrospect on Jeffrey Dahmer just because the Netflix series did good traffic. And I don't need another video on liminal spaces. I'm good with liminal spaces. Eerie. Ooh, how spooktacular. It's an abandoned-looking office hallway. Ooh, spooky. We can move on. But you see, that's what the algorithm does to us. It was a hot trend. So now you got to like constrict it and squeeze all the life out of it, because that's all the algorithm is going to help elevate in terms of search. And that creates a feedback loop. That was elevated in search. This seems to be really popular. I guess I'll watch a couple videos on it, and then you're screwed. The audience is basically abandoned in favor of this very shallow but broad. We're going to bring all these people to watch these videos on liminal spaces and Jeffrey Dahmer. No, you're not. They're not going to stick around. They had a morbid curiosity because of a Netflix show, and then they're going to leave. They're not going to stay and watch your other videos on other things. The YouTube algorithm is not helping you there. So, hope you all had a lovely weekend. I do kind of want to just get into some of these comments because I'm way off, but Steve, stop it. Steve is asking me, like, what was it, this article? Was it this article? What about this article? But yeah, a genre, a community dies as soon as the genre is only talking about itself. You know, like, if we turn tech YouTube into Keemstar, then that means tech YouTube is dead. That means it's over. That means this whole ride, everything that we've had fun with, everything that we've enjoyed is over. That there is no value in really talking about the tech if it's just, I have beef with this guy and I'm going to complain about that guy. And this girl's only in it because she's pretty and she couldn't talk about the mega flops and the giggle flips. Like, it's done. That means tech is proper dead. We got to be better than that. Yeah, Dave Burns, thank you. A systemic critique. That's kind of the language I was getting at. I'm talking about what I see as very broad trends in lazy reviewing and journalism, but it's rough because if I get too specific, then people start latching on to the, well, who's he talking about? Who's he talking about? And I make that joke a lot, and I have called out individuals. It's just that's not what I want my commentary to only be about. I would like to move on, but I kind of can't. Sore Hunter, but Hugh Jeffries is complaining against big tech. Yeah, his new video is great. His new video is, as the kids would say, straight fire. Man spitting facts, yo. And it's awesome. And it's really good. And I think he deserves, but because it's not a video about Apple or a video about Samsung, it's going to do a fraction. I mean, and we're talking a tiny sliver of the traffic that putting Apple in the headline would get them. Simon says, well, you know the bar is low and they can't even pronounce the product names. How do you even say the name of this phone? It's like so hard. It's like iPhone Pro Max plus extra 14. It's like a really hard phone. It's a very complicated timeline to figure out what's the product name. See, Geet, this is exactly what I'm saying. And I'm bringing this up as a specific example because this is the sickest I've ever felt watching my channel stats grow. Geet says, even sitting here, I'm also like, Juan called out Austin Evans. What was that about? And this time I could catch myself, but if all I see is scandalous dramatic thumbnails, self-control is not as easy. Yeah, which is why I didn't make it a video. I didn't post it on YouTube. I didn't expand on it beyond my one blog post. And that's still one of like the highest ranking blog posts I've ever written. And it's not really about the content. It's about Juan called out Austin Evans. That's it. I mean, again, going down and breaking down tropes and reviews was not what got people off. I know for a fact that people were not sitting there and looking at my arguments versus his arguments and weighing the pros and cons and look at it. Was more one guy who's got a moderately sized audience called out a guy who has a huge audience, and that's all it is. That's all it is. That's all that you want from that titillating. Ooh, it's so scandalous, and it's awful. Oh, Aditya, someone say pasta. So my folks were in town for Lex's birthday over the weekend. We had a huge birthday party. There were like 20 kids there. We hired a magician. I felt awful because the magician was a guy like 10 years ago I used to work with in VO. Really, really nice guy. And I just completely lost touch with him. And he showed up. We both obviously look a little different than we did a decade ago. But I snapped on his voice like, oh, I know that voice. My wife hired this magician. I think I know this guy. It was really awkward for a minute. Wait a minute, Juan? Hey, Mike? What's up? And we had to kind of like figure out our relationship while he's setting up to perform a magic show for my daughter's birthday party. He was incredible. We're gonna find wherever venue or whatever website I can review him on. For an army of like 7 to 9-year-olds, this was a fantastic magic show. But anyway, this whole like weekend has just been eating unhealthy. We went to this lovely little Italian bistro. I ate my weight in pasta. We went to the local like nice pizzeria. I ate my weight in pizza. And then a little kid birthday party. We've got a whole bunch of little mini bundt cakes. And like I'm gonna be carved out for the next week. I am definitely not being my best self right now. So for pasta, I could really do more with the creepy pasta and not the let's add to Juan's girth pasta. Ron Guido, the young and the techless. That's awesome. Oh man, that's hilarious. Uh, all right. Why don't we get into? I mean, covering housekeeping is really easy. I'm gonna knock out housekeeping here in 1 minute. I did not get much out because I was under embargoes and I'm working on a sponsored video for an e-bike, but I did put out just a little video review on the Riot Power Xbox controller for iPhone. Just a Game Pass way, a way to play Game Pass on iPhones with proper hardware because gaming on iPhones kind of sucks. So you can make it better by game streaming, and a good controller goes a long way in that. And then also, I wanted to follow this up from the Team TCL event. We got some insider info on a new TCL TV. So the 6 Series was getting expanded. It's a 3-product lineup. I have a 6 Series TCL TV, courtesy of Team TCL. It's the older. It's a bit older. The new line of 6 Series TVs, they're adding a larger size option. So the 85-inch TV just used to be part of their XL collection. Now their sort of premier line is the one with all the fanciest new technologies, is the 6 Series. I think it's $2,000, which is remarkable. High refresh rate, AMD, FreeSync Premium, 4K resolution, 120 hertz, brighter back panel with a tighter backlighting control. So a mini LED backlights, but more zones to control brightness. The contrast is phenomenal. 85 inches for like $2,000. And at that point, you're like almost directly competing against projectors. That is a huge television. So I actually did the video for reviews.org, and I'm just kind of giving it a little bit of a nudge. It's the Roku version of this, QLED technology, just a gorgeous panel. And TCL can kind of leverage their own panel manufacturing for better prices on their products. So just wanted to put that video out there too. Excuse me. I've got coffee burps like crazy. Oh, and it's over on my desk. And I did finish up a video on the iFi Griffin. I haven't published it yet publicly, so I might do that this afternoon just to kind of catch up. It's live on the Patreon, and I had meant to get it out on Friday, but Friday we started doing all the prep for Lex's birthday. So unfortunately, I'm like even more of a video behind public versus Patreon. So this is the iFi Griffin, and it's a gorgeous portable DAC amp. That should be going live sometime this week soon. So that was housekeeping. I mean, again, I'm kind of in a holding pattern on so much stuff right now that I'm waiting for the dam to break just so I can start really publishing and getting stuff out there. Let me get this out of the way here. So it's pretty tough. It's a hard knock life. It's a rough go right now out there for the tech reviewers as we're all trying to figure out what happens next. I mean, again, this totally shook up what I felt I wanted to talk about on the podcast. Was waking up to 2 different audiophile reviewers, like headphone and speaker reviewers, and both of them like, man, something's got to change. And like, again, like that's crazy. There's something in the air there's like a feeling that's been festering for a while, and like nobody's happy. We're all scrambling. We're all trying to cater to platforms and views and metrics, and like none of us are doing what we want to do. So when does this change? When does this get better? What happens next? And increasingly, it's like, man, we can't wait for something to change. We need to change it. But I don't know how you do that. I don't know how I change YouTube, which is a really heady problem. It's a really heady proposition. I'm going to take a proper drink of coffee here for just a sec. Okay. So, everything that we're going to be talking about, all of the show notes, all of the housekeeping, everything is going to be on the blog post this week on somegadgetguy.com. Sorry. I'm so easily distracted right now, but Dave Burns, one describes neoliberalism at the speed of technology. I promise you this will not become a podcast where I start describing what it would be like to violently seize the means of production. We're not going to do that. That's not what this show is going to be. I'll have to save that for a Patreon editorial. So, I'm sorry. I just like, oh, proletariat. Oh, bourgeois. Okay. I want to get into some of the news. This one's a really quick story to follow up on. We talked about it a little bit more in depth a couple weeks back. The rules have been finalized. The EU's final approval for the law that is going to eventually force the iPhone to switch to USB-C. We are looking at 2024, and by the end of 2024. So that means in 2023 we're going to have an iPhone 15. In 2024 we're going to get an iPhone 16. And then the law will go into effect. And right now, I'm writing up an editorial. This isn't going to be a video because I'm tired of trying to make everything a video. I've got to focus more on written posts and kind of bringing more audience back to the website and working directly with people, not having YouTube be a gatekeeper for everything that I do. I've got some issues with this literally just in now using a couple different smartwatches. So we're pretty confident that Apple could probably turn around a portless iPhone in 2017 and completely circumvent this new EU regulation. We'll never get an iPhone USB-C because they could just flip the switch on that. All of the accessories will hopefully be USB-C. It's stupid to have high-end headphones and earbuds, a mouse, on a lightning connector. That is so dumb. It just, again, it's Apple's licensing, so they make a ton of money on the lightning connector, but it's ruthlessly anti-consumer. But I really do think now, I want to see, like, is there a way that I can bet on this in Vegas? Because I'll put $1,000 on it. That when iPhone 17 comes out, that's when we get the portless iPhone. It's all MagSafe. It's all sealed up, and there's no way to do anything else because the EU regulation has allowed them this crowbar of space to say, oh, but if there's a cabled charging solution, it has to be USB-C. So Apple says, well, then there just won't be a cabled charging solution. And Apple has played that game with the dock connector during the time of micro USB. Like, I now have so little, like, I'm so cynical regarding those types of moves and that kind of product strategy. I feel like that's probably it. And so here's the thing, Geet Madden, I would hope, but I doubt it. Geet Madden writes, I do not think there will be a portless iPhone. It would be bad for business. Here's where you're wrong. Here's where you're very wrong. Apple makes a ton of money on licensing the Lightning connector. It is a proprietary port exclusively held intellectual property by Apple. So they make a grip of cash on anything that needs to be certified, any accessory, any dongle, anything that plugs into that port, they control the entire IP. They will not make nearly as much money going to USB-C because USB-C is not under their thumb. It's not under their control. So they'll still make money on accessories, but if they have a certification process for what can or cannot be called a MagSafe certified charger, they will go back to making a ton more money on MagSafe accessories over USB-C accessories. So then all they need to do is go out on stage and say, look, this phone has no seams, no break, no holes, except for a speaker vent. That's how, iPhone is leading the way on amazing industrial design, and get all of their hardcore fans really excited about it. And all the people who will complain will kind of half-heartedly complain. Right? They're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. They're not going to fall afoul of Apple's PR. They're not going to rock the boat. They're not going to disrupt anything. You also have even the people that are like blacklisted by Apple PR, but they're so thirsty for those good Apple clicks. They're like, oh, you know what? That's a concern. But you just got to give it time and Apple will update it and it'll get better. And that's how, because Apple always eventually gets there. We can give them infinite runway because Apple does the magic applesauce and no one else can. And then everyone's going to copy them. By 2025, I bet you we have a completely sealed up Galaxy. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that in 2026 we still have a Sony Xperia with a headphone jack and a removable memory card slot. So I'm hoping. I'm seriously like, I was gonna save it for the gadget block, but I'm super torn on where my SIM card should live right now because I have the Xperia 1 back in house and I have the Pixel 7 Pro back in house. And there's one business model that I would very much like to support more and more publicly. So, sorry, Geet. I'm not trying to pick on you, but this is actually way better for business. It's way better for Apple. There's less you can do with the iPhone, more expensive accessories, a proprietary certification process for third-party manufacturers, even down to a case. Oh man, like if you want your case to make sure that it properly supports MagSafe and all that stuff, you got to kind of work with Apple. You got to be on a certification process. And now those cases are going to be more expensive so that they're all properly designed to work with Apple's proprietary magnet arrangement for MagSafe products. I think the entire thing is going to snowball on us really, really quickly. It's frustrating. So, okay, so yes, so we agree, but the phrase bad for business that you would assume you mean this is a move that would harm the consumer's perception of the product enough that they will buy fewer of them, and that's what I disagree with. So Geet also writes, I understand they make a ton of money from MFI program. I meant bad for business in the sense that they won't be able to refurbish the phone, repair costs on their end would shoot up, troubleshooting in-house would get more complicated. And I don't think so. I mean, this is what gets really silly, but what Apple can do in a repair process, I feel like we'll just go back to that kind of program where you used to go into an Apple store and they just hand you like a refurbed or a brand new product. Then they take that old one, ship it back. If it can be sort of reflashed or reprovisioned, great. So if a part of the MagSafe connector spec kind of falls into that wireless USB that we saw on things like the Essential phone, I was running updates on Huawei watches over the wireless puck connector charger. You can do it. It's going to suck for the consumer, but I think Apple will sell more products. It'll be a bigger change to the product portfolio. It'll get people excited, talking about it. It becomes this fashion thing. And I think Apple makes way more money in the long run by completely skipping USB-C. Because what you're describing would be true if there was an iPhone with USB-C and an iPhone that was totally portless with MagSafe. And I think if you skip USB-C, Apple will figure out some of the costs and internal support and refurb programs and all that stuff. But they'll make a ton more money as everybody has to rebuy chargers, rebuy MagSafe pads, get rid of this adapter and get that adapter. All of that, Apple makes a grip of cash on it. I think that, to me, I'm now increasingly feeling like we'll probably just never get a USB-C iPhone. I think they might just make the jump. So Farhan saying, I can only assume that Stage Manager won't work with Lightning. So I'm working on the video for this. This is the UPerfect X14 Pro. And it's a laptop dock, and it looks a lot like other UPerfect laptop docks. I have a hair in it because it was on the floor. Ugh, that's gross. Sorry. So it is a laptop shell, full wraparound hinge. You can go tent mode. You can go laptop mode. You can close it all the way flat and just go kind of tablet and slate mode. It's a big old battery. The X14 Pro is notable because UPerfect has been listening to the community out there when people complain like, oh, it would have been perfect if I could use DeX wirelessly. So this has Miracast and Bluetooth radios built into it so that you can use DeX wirelessly. I wholly believe iPhone will go portless. iPad will stick with USB-C because Apple wants iPads in education. iPads are for schools now too, because what's a computer? And students will learn on iPads, so you can condition all the little kids, keep them away from those scummy poor people Chromebooks. But even if the iPad went portless, you could go to some type of proprietary 2.4 gig radio to support some kind of wireless desktop mode or initiative. I mean, we've been doing that since the second generation of Huawei's desktop mode on Kirin 970s. Wireless transmission of that kind of display data really isn't that difficult. I mean, it's kind of hard to get it right and get it fluid, reduce lag and minimize all that, but there's no reason why Stage Manager shouldn't work over some kind of wireless protocol. So then you can charge more for like an Apple TV. If you want your Stage Manager to work with your television or to go to a portable monitor, we've got Apple TV Pro. Apple TV Pro is designed to work with iPads and Macs to extend your display wirelessly. I mean, come on. It is so easy to think like Apple. What is going to be more difficult for the consumer? What's going to break accepted standards and create a proprietary interface, and then Apple will make more money on it? That's the gig. If you can figure out like that chain, what's going to make it harder to leave the ecosystem, what's going to break an accepted standard, and can we come up with a proprietary solution of that standard, you've just replicated like 80% of Apple's current business model right there. All right. So yes, that was supposed to be a much shorter story. EU finalized those rules. I'm not going to dig into this one too much just because it's another one of those, I want you to read this article. We've got election season coming up. Ars Technica has a breakdown grading social media websites and services on their ability to respond to misinformation. And I feel like this is a pretty well researched. I mean, it's an Ars Technica article, so there are tons of links throughout. But they give like Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, they give them each grades for how they've reacted to misinformation in the past, with an expectation like, if you're looking for better sources of online discourse, these are the kind of grades, this is the kind of conversation or commentary you can expect from each of those different platforms. Written up, so they've got a bunch of like social media experts, but Dom Kim, Anja Suzarla, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, Scott Shackelford, and of course the Ars Technica team just put all of this together. It is phenomenally well researched and very well linked, as a number of Ars Technica articles are. So you should definitely check that out. That'll be linked in the show notes. I could spend a lot of time reading through it, but I think it's just better if you just like check it out. Another follow-up. Yes, Dave Byrne saying Ars Technica is a solid publication. I get, and as an editorialist, and an editorial team, sorry, words are hard. As an editorial team, I've really respected kind of how they format conversations and follow through. So it's not just angry headline and a little paragraph blurb. It's like concerning headline, and here's our last 10 articles on this subject, so you can see the timeline of how we got to this place. That's what I like. It's like they do a really good job of the follow through. Anyway, Bloomberg put out a quick little article that we've been talking about, a topic we've been talking about for a while. Twitter tumbles as U.S. weighs security reviews for Musk deal. Concerns over Musk's stance on Russia and threats to cut Starlink And also that Musk was considering cutting Twitter's workforce by 75%. Biden administration officials are discussing whether the U.S. should subject some of Elon Musk's ventures to national security reviews, including the deal for Twitter Inc. and SpaceX's Starlink satellite network, according to people familiar with the matter. On that news, Twitter shares fell 5.1% as the market opened in New York on Friday. Yeah, where Elon Musk had carried this reputation as like nerdy real life Tony Stark, he has absolutely become his own worst enemy. His like constant support of Russia. Oh no, they might nuke everything. We better just give them everything they want. Not a good look from the CEO of this company. Same thing with his complaints like, oh, but we had to spend so much money on Starlink for Ukraine. And you're like, yeah, but US taxpayers subsidized your charitable donation of Starlink to Ukraine. And then when business got kind of weird, you threatened to pull the plug on their telecommunications infrastructure. So it wasn't some big magnanimous altruistic gesture on your part. You were looking for more public taxpayer funds. A man who is looking for more government contracts. Now, that's a cagey way of saying, I want more money from the American taxpayer by way of the government giving me taxpayer funds for contracts, was also one of the crankiest guys to leave California because of all the taxes. Oh, I gotta pay taxes. The same taxes that helped kickstart Tesla as a company. The same taxes that have helped reinforce SpaceX's business model. And the same taxes that he is now crying for in keeping Ukraine connected. Oh, we'll just screw it. I'll just eat the losses. Thanks, Elon. How very generous of you. Again, I'm not going to turn this podcast into a rant on seizing the means of production, but there are a few individuals that seem hellbent on making me want to shoot and record podcasts about seizing the means of production, and Elon Musk is becoming one of those guys. So getting into the Twitter deal, because of ties to foreign governments and the public support of certain governments, this is now becoming a national security issue that deserves a review. And because of all of that, this might actually be the way that Musk can get out of the Twitter deal. He might now have a plausible reason, if he is this obnoxious and is this counter to American foreign policy publicly, it could trigger some type of regulatory action preventing the deal to go through. And again, I don't want to give him this credit, but if you're trying to talk like fifth dimensional chess, like all you have to do is completely burn all of the goodwill you've built in the tech nerd community, tank the stock prices on a number of your products, and you can get out of spending $40 to $50 billion on a social media platform that now you're not as interested in owning. It was going to be like a fun fad thing. Twitter, I own Twitter, and I can do wacky memes on Twitter and I own it. But yeah, now it's like he's engaged in a kind of conversation on foreign politics that the United States might object. I just feel like there needs to be a savage market correction on what Elon Musk represents, and properly acknowledging like he's a clever dude. He's really good at walking into a company and hyping the company and getting a lot of money for the company. And he is like very good at kind of like parsing like, hey man, I'm really into my Tesla and my cars, and I know a lot of what's going on in the production chain. And in an interview, I can talk about all these things that are going on with my cars and my software. And aren't I so witty and funny and charming? But yeah, like at some point, the patience for eccentric billionaire starts to run out when this is the type of play that they're making publicly all so often. Soar Hunter. Hey, if this coverage goes long enough, we can rename this channel What in the World Did Musk Do This Week? And like, I'm not, yeah. See, we want to hype up the drama channels. Thanks, Elon Musk. Look what you've done to my podcast. From Dave Burns. I also think normal people should be more hesitant, or I also think normal people should more hesitant to say decisive statements on geopolitical stances. You know, DTNL, what crypto did he crash today? I it's the problem that I've got. You know, like I've been listening to a lot of it's probably not aliens. Like they put out a new episode every week, and it's basically just picking apart some of the really silly claims in Ancient Aliens, and again how like spectacularly racist that show can be. I just think it's funny because they love bringing up like this is a production technique that the show really leans on, and one of them is let's bring in a qualified expert with a PhD in this area, and then have them speculate about something that they have no knowledge about, but they're credible because they're scientists with degrees, but we're having them comment on something that they don't know anything about. So then we can conflate those statements and make it seem like a qualified expert is agreeing with our outlandish theory on aliens coming to the planet Earth to build the pyramids or something like that. And Elon Musk kind of fits that to a T. Like, who do we not really care about his thoughts on foreign policy? We shouldn't really be putting this much weight behind Elon Musk talking about geopolitical entanglements. And yet, because he is such a large figure in one area, we kind of have to suffer his opinions in places where he should really just kind of sit down and maybe shut up for a bit. So, speaking of platforms, yet another one that I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on. I've been super critical of YouTube. I know a lot of creators will probably disagree with me, but I'm getting to a point where YouTube's business strategy is to make free YouTube so painful to use that you'll want to pay for premium. It doesn't seem to be we are adding new content and new features and making premium a better buy so that you'll be encouraged to spend money. And having been an old at the very early dawn of streaming video on the internet and remembering what a Wild West platform back when Google had their own Google streaming service and they bought YouTube to basically just own that chunk of the market. I'm not too upset with people that are looking at alternatives to buying premium, but then also not engaging with the current state of the platform. I kind of fit that range. I believe Linus Tech Tips. Like, hey, if you're watching YouTube and you're not engaging with ads and you're not paying for premium, it is kind of like theft. You are sort of circumventing what makes the platform more money. On that same token, YouTube has done an absolutely terrible job of serving me content and serving me ads that are relevant to my interests. Google has every ounce of data on every part of my behavior, but during election season, I guarantee you, I'm going to be served a ton more political ads for opponents that I viscerally disagree with. And I won't have opportunities to block those channels. During the last presidential election, it was nonstop wall-to-wall Trump ads. So if YouTube wants me to engage with their platform, they've picked the absolute worst way to do it. If YouTube wants me to pay for their service, what they've shown me on the free side is we're going to work our asses off to harm your mental health with the most toxic and the worst politically affiliated commentary for your views. Like I'm saying I needed to be in a Biden echo chamber because I didn't really like Biden. I wanted to vote for Warren. But even then, like I couldn't block those ads, I couldn't mute them, I couldn't silence them, and that's what actually encouraged me, that alone right there, to start looking at like ad blockers and plugins and I was definitely happy to still be on Firefox for that. So we got a bunch of creators saying like, hey man, if you get value out of YouTube, if you really enjoy this platform, the way to do it is to move to YouTube Premium, which is fine until YouTube Premium hikes price of family plan 28% in the United States to $23 a month. 23 bucks a month. YouTube Premium is now more expensive than the hilariously overpriced top tier at Netflix. And YouTube isn't responsible for making much of the content that really lives on YouTube for people to watch. So the family plan, 28% higher. The family plan has gone up from $17.99 to $22.99 a month, an increase of 28%. According to Google, for existing members, the new monthly rate will go into effect for the first billing cycle that occurs at least 30 days after customers have been notified of the price increase. Quote, we don't make these decisions lightly, and we realize how hard this may be for our members. This new price reflects the complete value of YouTube Premium and will allow us to develop even more premium features and continue to support the creators and artists you watch and listen to on YouTube. So yeah, that's pretty rough. And I get it. I mean, you know, you can kind of staple services together in YouTube Music, but I'm happier on Qobuz. I really like Qobuz. I'm so angry that still today, the way of consuming YouTube videos that requires the least interaction or the least server support from YouTube, like so many of the YouTube videos that I'm actually consuming now, I'm doing as audio. I love my friends. I love the videos they put out. I love these long form diary type videos, movie analysis, TV show analysis, the horror and scary creepypasta ARG things. Like, I can't really just sit and watch. So the main way I'm interacting with a lot of this content is at like 1.5 speed and as audio. And it still drives me nuts that the audio stream on YouTube Premium is the only way to do that officially. I should not have to pay YouTube to use their servers less. That's killing me. It's driving me nuts. I mean, just on the principle of it. What you should be doing is cutting me a break, but instead, now, we're seeing prices climb almost 30%. And it's still the same argument. Well, but I mean, if you don't want to have a terrible experience, this is the way to do it. We have so much value in YouTube Premium. You don't. It's the same creators. It's the same content. People are making this content for your platform. YouTube isn't really responsible for making this content. They're desperately trying to copy TikTok. And now their big hook is, well, but I mean, this is what we got to do. We have to do it. YouTube made money last year, but it didn't make enough more money than the year before. So the way for us to make more money on top of the money that we were making and already increasing on is to jack up the prices for people. And if you're really into YouTube, you're not going to want to go back to watching ads. So you've got to spend 30% more. Dave Burns. An economy based on endless consumption that's hostile to consumption. It's a great business model. That's great. That's awful and hilarious. So I'm not going to sit there and try and help you figure out Vanced or some other type of solution for, you know, cutting out sponsors or ads or anything like that. But I'm also not going to be too angry with people who tell me they do it. I can't. I don't make money on YouTube. I make a little, but for having an audience of 150,000 subscribers, precious few of my videos really get attention from my subscribers. And even the videos that do go off and end up making, you know, like 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 views, I make so much less on YouTube than I do on my much tinier community over on Patreon. So for a much smaller group of people that are actively saying they want to support my work, I'm much more inclined to talk to them. Why spend all of this time and effort and energy bashing my head against the wall trying to support YouTube? And then YouTube turns around and squeezes my subscribers there for even more cash. Like, why would I keep trying to support that as a business model when I have no control over what YouTube decides to do? You know, anything you would want to contribute on patreon.com/somegadgetguy, I believe Patreon can handle credit card payments as low as like 50 cents. And that gets you onto the Patreon. You can pay it for a month, see all of the videos that I've produced, catch up, turn it off for another 6 months, and come back and pay another 50 cents. Like, I believe someone might have to correct me on that if they've changed that policy, but I think like the minimum contribution would still get you access to the videos that I publish. I feel like that's the entertainment value of my channel. I can't compete against all the content on Hulu, so I very much appreciate the people that will contribute and support at higher tiers, but like, you know, you can get in very, very little and have a much better experience than dealing with YouTube. So yeah. I mean, really, if you're so deep in, I'm sorry, I want to let this go. If you're so deep into YouTube, look at a couple of the channels that you support. Like, look at how much YouTube content you really do consume. And then maybe look at like those top creators that you watch, not top creators in terms of channel size, top creators in terms of your watch time. And then go see, do they have a Patreon? Can you kick them a buck? Instead of spending over $20 a month on YouTube, could you take like 10 bucks a month, contribute to a couple channels individually, give that money more directly to those creators, and end up with better content, more focused conversations, better comment sections for those conversations? It would be a much healthier way, a much more direct way of supporting those individuals that you say that you're trying to support. I don't feel sitting through ads is the way to do it, and I'm increasingly skeptical that creators are making any more money through this YouTube premium plan. Because of that tiny little chunk of cash I get, I'm not really supposed to disclose like the exact values and stuff. It's actually against our creator agreement at YouTube for me to like pull up my analytics and just show you. That kind of stuff gets dicey and it gets weird. But it's a tiny sliver of folks who are on YouTube Premium that are contributing to what little cash I make on YouTube. Again, I can't tell you exactly, but it's real little. It's a real little fraction of the little chunk of money that I get from them. So again, you have the ability to vote with your wallet still. I think that's fine. So, Soar Hunter, and I want to bring this up because I feel like this is a fair counterpoint. I disagree, but I also don't feel we're doing a good job of serving ads. So Soar Hunter says, sorry, but I wholeheartedly disagree with the skipping ads amounts to theft. I hate ads, and I hate that they believe my cell data is theirs to use as they like. I will block all ads that I can. I even bought a perpetual license from AdGuard. Okay, so philosophically, if the business model is creators get paid by having ad deals built into their videos, then I disagree. I disagree. I feel like skipping ads is a bad way of engaging with that content if the content is subsidized by that business model. But if the ad business model is so poorly managed that I can't trust you coming to my YouTube channel, you will get ads that are relevant to your search history, your interests, and that you might be served ads that could potentially impact your mental health, then I can't in good faith say, try and sit through those ads so you can make me a little bit more money on YouTube. Oh, because I have no control over it. I can't practically guide it. Realistically, I can't help serve better ads and services, lifestyle products, political campaigns, like the mess of advertising that is YouTube right now. I got so excited. Someone posted it on the Discord that for your own ad consumption, Google is going to start opening up a process where you can guide the algorithm on what ads to serve you. The current state of YouTube is so depressing, I got excited about that. Oh, are you telling me that I'll be able to go into a page on my YouTube settings, on my Google settings, and tell the YouTube algorithm not to serve me these kinds of ads? That's how sad this is. For a good like half hour, I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. How sad is that? What stage of late stage capitalism are we in where I am excited that a platform which pretends, it claims it knows so much about me that it can guide my video consumption habits and serve me relevant ads and products and tips and tricks and videos and commercials, that I am now excited that I can go in there and tell it better what kinds of ads to serve me. Like, we've completely lost the plot on what this was all supposed to resemble. It's real super gross. But yeah, so if you want good content, we've got to find ways of monetizing that content. We've got to find ways of supporting it. I really do genuinely hope that there's going to be a good competitor for Patreon that we can interact with. I don't like being tied to just one private platform. I'm seriously considering, there's a new series of plugins on Squarespace. Squarespace is building into their platform a series of tools where you can kind of replicate some of the paywall that you would find from like a Patreon. And I'm kind of like just kind of side eyeing it a little bit, because if that takes off and we see any kind of developer support or improvement on that kind of process, it's a no-brainer that like WordPress is going to try and figure out something similar. And my blog is just a really, really bad old template WordPress blog. Excuse me. And if that's the case, like, I might just try to like make a new page of paywall content, and then there's the mainstream feed that my blog normally has, and maybe I could just do it all in-house. Instead of going to Patreon, again, I'd be working with a developer, I'd probably have to give WordPress a cut, but that would be, I think, a better way of combining all of this, and I'd have a little bit more control and autonomy over my audience. If something happens to Patreon, I'm kind of just as screwed if something happens to YouTube. So again, it's so weird, like the amount of time and energy and effort that you have to put into managing all of this and trying to handle your audience's expectations and finding the most charitable way to do it. Because I also want to be able to price this in a way that I think is fair for the audience. It's kind of tough. It's really hard, and I'm definitely not getting it right. But this is the closest I can get to getting it correct. So, Elias, this section is brought to you by Squarespace. You can get your own website up and running if you have e-commerce, or if you want to do website design with the great WYSIWYG editor. Because what you see is what you get. And you can just go to squarespace.com/some gadget guy doesn't have a promo code, and you can get yourself 10% off the lifetime of any of your Squarespace products. You can build it today on Squarespace. Is that pretty good? Did I get it? All right, where are we at? So I've got a couple. Oh, no, just one more news block. The only reason why I wanted to bring this one up, this is written another Ars Technica article written up by Samuel Axon. The article's short, but read up on this. I think it's interesting to see this turnover this quickly, but I wanted to highlight this because so many of the headlines on this story have kind of done this thing. What is the SEO on Apple product design? Who can put in the chat? I'm gonna wait for the chat to catch up. Who can put a name in the chat that resonates in your brain for the design of an iPhone? What name comes to mind when you think hardware design of the iPhone? Who gets it first? Who's gonna hit the chat first? Who's gonna come up with that name? Boom! Look at that. I mean, that took a second. Aditya Anil, Johnny Ive. Look at that. How quickly and immediately that came. Just the person who is like synonymous with Apple hardware in the modern age. And I want you to see this. It wasn't even someone like Steve Jobs, right? I said Apple iPhone hardware design. That's the name that spikes. All right, let me pull this down. Going into this Ars Technica article, Johnny Ive successor, Evans Hankey leaves Apple after 3 years. I'm sorry. I just think this is hilarious. So the SEO, the search engine optimization, the way for an article to score higher on person who makes Apple products has to have Johnny Ive in the title. And they're leading with that. And there are a couple article headlines where it's just like person who replaced Johnny Ive leaving after 3 years. They don't even put Evan's name into the article, into the headline. So yeah, she's been the hardware designer and in charge of just the hardware and the form factor for about 3 years, and she's going to be stepping down. And I just think that is a very interesting turnover. What like the current state of Apple resembles, and in terms of industrial design and what their products mean to their consumers and stuff like that is quick. You barely had time to influence any of the products coming up. It'd probably be about a year overlap, anything she was working on that's coming to market, and they don't have anyone named as a proper successor yet. But I just think it was hilarious. What is the name of this person? This person is Johnny Ive's successor. That's the relevant search piece of information. More people will search for Johnny Ive's name 3 years after leaving Apple than will search for Evan's name. So we can't just leave her name up in the title all by itself. We've got to put. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I saying his name? Is it Joni? Is it Johnny or Joni? I've always kind of in my brain put Johnny, like kind of an almost a soft A sound, like Johnny. But I have a bad habit of doing that with all sort of OA combinations, like aunt, obfuscate. Anyway, so yeah, I might be mispronouncing his name. Johnny Ives? Johnny Ives. Johnny. It's starting to not sound like words anymore. Johnny. Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, apparently there's going to be a changing of the guard for people who design Apple products, which will be interesting because the first, you do have a little gadget block story, just the new iPads. We can talk about those. They weren't particularly, super exciting or anything, but new products, new stuff coming out. I think a lot of companies are in this like restrict, reduce, constrict kind of business model, and Apple is no exception. They want to make more money on their products. That means you're not going to be taking as many risks. So just real quick, I do want to throw a shout out. We've got the subreddit, reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. It needs support. It needs help. It needs comments and upvotes. I took the top spot, but I took the top spot on something that we're going to talk about in this podcast with the Peak Design case. All I did was share a photo of the new Peak Design case for the Pixel 7 Pro, and that took our top spot on the subreddit this week. Rounding out the top three, two guys that I've mentioned a whole bunch in this podcast. Gary Explains, taking a look at Tensor G2 versus Apple A16 versus Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 versus Exynos 2200 versus the Dimensity 9000 Plus. Okay, there are all these articles about benchmarks and testing and gaming. Basically, Gary Explains is one of the only channels who's actually qualified to dig into that stuff. It's like Gary Explains, he knows what he's talking about in terms of the semiconductor industry. And then also, if someone like Dr. Ian Cutress wanted to weigh in, he is qualified to talk about the semiconductor industry. Those two guys, I've learned more over the last like 2 or 3 years about SoC and CPU and GPU design from those two guys than anyone else in YouTube. So this is completely deserving that Gary took our second spot on the subreddit this week. And in number 3, We own nothing in the digital age, and we're letting it happen from Hugh Jeffries. One of the other reasons why I went off on people supporting Hugh Jeffries at the beginning of this podcast, because he showed up as number 3. So the audience at Glowing Rectangles, reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles, they are on the pulse. They are supporting and sharing some of the best tech content you can find on YouTube or online. We're starting to get a few more submissions from people writing articles, not just YouTube video after YouTube video after YouTube video. Reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. It's for any content you feel deserves more attention. Hugh Jeffries has 816,000 subscribers. His new video came out 2 days ago, has 100,000 views. That's incorrect. That's not correct. People who say they're into Hugh Jeffries videos, 1/8 of his potential audience has watched this video. So I feel that's wrong. Let me see. Gary Explains, 275,000 subscribers, and I just want to see, how did this video do? This is like one of the biggest roundups. This is awful. Okay. Gary Explains put together a 21-minute video breaking down the architectural and performance differences between all of the top chips in phones today. And we're seeing one of the most wonderful eras of competition start to arrive. Google's chip, MediaTek's chip, Qualcomm's chip, Apple's chip, Samsung's chip. That is a lot of work to put all that together. He has 275,000 subscribers. He has covered every single major player in the SoC community for a potential smartphone chip. And this video has almost 23,000 views. Less than a tenth of his audience potential for this video, which took a ton of work to put it together and to make this an insightful and educated conversation on the tech of today. Tiny fraction of what that video's potential could be. We need to be doing better than this. If we say we like tech, here's a great example of how we could be doing better. Hold on one second. Okay, so reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles is one of my efforts to try and change this, but it needs all of your help. I mean, literally, I have 45 people watching this stream right now. If half of you upvoted videos on glowing rectangles, you would completely change the rankings today. That's how little effort you need to expend. Not if everyone watching right now clicked on those videos, if only half of you clicked upvote on a couple of videos on reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles, you would completely change what was popular, what was ranking, what we feel is deserving of more attention. So I do want to throw a shout out real quick. El Jefe Reviews is in the chat. On Twitch, subscribed for 39 months. Just hit me with another subscription at tier 1. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the support. And Jeff, you've just been amazing to kind of watch your career. And your videos have been some of my absolute favorite to participate with. So that coming back, I just really appreciate that. And again, that you're supporting creators literally. I mean, like, not just, hey, I'm out there in the community and trying to help people make better stuff, but like, you're in every video chat. Like, you're one of the hardest working guys in tech YouTube. So thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. So Gormlord, I always watch Hugh Jeffries, but that never showed up in my subscriptions because you let YouTube do it. If you go over to reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles, you'll probably see more of the content that you're subscribed to on YouTube actually pop up in a way that you can watch it. I don't know, man. I'm saying it, and I'm pointing out how, like, literally every week of this podcast, we're talking about how things are falling apart and getting worse, and no one's making much of an effort to really kind of change that behavior to try and make things better. I'm gonna keep pointing it out. And maybe when it all falls apart, I'll have some schadenfreude over like, see, I told you. Only everything will be terrible. And I don't want to get to that point. I'd rather it get better than it completely bottom out. So real quick, getting into the gadget block. This is a cute little article. I don't think there are really 10 good reasons, but Google put together a little page, 10 new reasons to love Messages by Google. Basically, it's just like all of the new features that are coming to the Messages app. I don't love the new icon, but it's fine. I don't really care what the app icon looks like as much as the functionality of it. But now there are going to be, oh, here it is. Number one, ever been in a chat where the conversation with friends is flowing and you're catching up with tons of messages? Soon you'll be able to respond to an individual message in a conversation when RCS is enabled, making it easier to respond to a specific message without breaking the flow. I'm glad they put this as number one, because number one, that is such a handy little feature that we've had in every other messaging platform, like Discord. I'll come back to Discord a week later and still see like responses and replies and be able to kind of like keep up with what the thread of the conversation was. So much easier. And if you're in a group text, ugh, it's so gross that like we haven't been able to do stuff like that. But voice messages are going to be more accessible. They're going to use, see, this one's funny to me. So this is number 3. We're making voice messages more accessible. Machine learning, voice message transcription, auto-transcribes the message so you can access it with ease. It's the thing that really bothers me about YouTube's incentives. I mean, not YouTube, sorry. Alphabet's incentives for their product designers. If you had people working on maintenance more than celebrating the people that come up with a fun new project, this is something that shouldn't have taken this long to arrive. We can all remember one of the earliest, when Google bought, what was the original name of Google Voice? Grand Central. When Google bought that out and they had their own internet phone product, one of the major hooks was, hey, we get this message, you get a voicemail, and the voicemail lives on our server because it's an internet phone. And so we can transcribe the voicemail so you can read your voicemail. You don't have to like make a phone call happen to check your messages. You can just read your messages. It is now many, many years later than when Google Voice had this feature, and we're just now getting, I absolutely hate, with the fiery burning passion of 1,000 suns, when I get a whole bunch of voice messages in my texts, because I have no way of referencing what was in there. TK can comment on this. We were trying to work out, it was when we had the Xperia Pro and we were going in different directions to try and chase down some millimeter wave 5G. And he sent me like 2 or 3 messages in voice. Like, so you record your voice. To me, this is the worst. This is the most egregious, this is the most disrespectful of someone's time way to communicate. Because I get a little bar with a play button and no other information. So if TK says, hey, I'm going to be at this place at this time, and then has 2 other messages, I don't know what message the information was for me to meet up with TK. Hey, I'm going to be down in Santa Monica and you can meet me up here. Also, what do you want to do for lunch? Oh, and hey, I also had this other problem with this other phone. Now I've got to listen to multiple voice messages to try and get to, where did TK say he was going to be? Was he going to be in Santa Monica or was he going down to Long Beach? I can't remember now. And instead of a piece of text that I can search for or just see with my eyes, I've got to listen through some. So anyway, I was a total jerk about it. Big surprise there. And he gave me like a couple messages. And so I just pushed play. I recorded him an entire verse of Happy Together from the Turtles while I was driving. And that, again, it just sort of clogs up your texts. But I did the same thing to Jaime. Jaime would like, I'm at the show floor, I'm going to be here. Now I'm going to go do this, I'm going to do that. So I would start recording like 2-minute long messages. And in the middle of the message would be the piece of information that Jaime needed. But then I would also go off and just like, oh, and yeah, I'm walking by this thing. Did you know the specs on this and the battery life and all this? Because I can't. You can't figure out where you're supposed to be or what's supposed to happen. It is stupid that it's taken this long to get voice message transcription in Messages. I'm so glad it's here, but I've been doing transcribed voicemails since the early days of Google Voice. Why is this now an exciting new feature to add to Messages? I'll tell you why. It's because Google has been incentivizing their developers to make something new and disruptive instead of improving the products they already have. And it seems Google is finally whittling back on stupid pie-in-the-sky, gimmicky products and saying, like, hey, we're trying to get people to use Messages. Maybe we should make Messages better. Instead of making a whole new app in another year, let's just fix it. And it only took them decades to figure this out, but now we finally have it. Sorry, that really cheeses me off. I can't handle that. It drives me crazy. It's like, it's so convenient for me to send you this voice message, and it is so inconvenient for me to receive that voice message and have to deal with a piece of information in audio form that sounds terrible, and I can't quickly reference what that was. So, Jimmy Fire Dragon on YouTube is saying, can I please donate? I don't know what you mean. Do you mean like you want a super chat or something? Because here's the deal. TK and I started this new podcast channel so that we could put long form videos together, the two of us, on this one channel, so they wouldn't mess up our personal channels. Until that qualifies for monetization, we can't do anything, like, monetarily. You know what? What I would say is, if you would like to donate, maybe go to TK's channel and shoot him like a thanks. What is it when you call it? Because it's a super chat when it's a live stream, but it's something else when you just give him money in a video. What is that? I don't know what that's called. I think Jeff was hanging out. El Jefe Reviews. What is that called when you donate on someone's video? Super thanks. Thank you. I knew, and it was El Jefe Reviews. Jeff knew exactly what I was talking about. So what I would say is, in supporting this channel, we need more subscribers so that we can monetize this channel. YouTube has not been very helpful in us trying to build up a proper podcasting channel on their platform. They say they want more podcasters, but they don't want us. So that would be one way. I would say just go to TK's personal channel and give him some super thanks. As I was just mentioning, if you have the means and you would like to support my content, I'd make more money on Patreon, and then you would get access to better quality videos, my production diaries, and some early access. You would already be able to watch my review of the iFi Griffin as one of the absolute best premium portable audio products around. And you could drop $1, get a month's worth of Patreon access, and all of that content would be ready to go for you. A super thanks would not bring either of us nearly as much money as a direct contribution, but that would be very appreciated. So, Jimmy Fire Dragon, the other thing that I would also add, you know what, that's the other point that I kind of want to make here. TK would really appreciate it, a super thanks on his channel. I would really appreciate a Patreon, but I also wouldn't be upset if you took $1 and instead of giving it to me, and I'll lose 30 cents for the platform, if you maybe sent it to your local food bank in my name. Especially as we get into November, I'm actually going to ask for fewer contributions and super thanks and Patreon subscriptions and all that mess. And instead, any money that you would feel you would want to send to me as a creator, we're getting into the holiday season. The weather is getting cold in a lot of places. I just saw another article on food instability has shot up another 25% over the last fiscal quarter. It's 25% more of the American population doesn't know what they're going to do for their next meal. And in your neck of the woods, if you're not in the United States, I bet it's probably a pretty good bet that that has also happened in your neck of the woods. And for me, especially getting into the holidays, especially around Thanksgiving and Christmas, these things that are such meaningful events in my family, I can't imagine those events without food. Even when my family was really struggling financially and we were really having some problems, like, just working out finances and the car broke down and my dad's got to fix it himself because we can't afford a mechanic. We always had food on the table. We sometimes it was just pasta, man. Maybe that was it, but we always ate. My parents always made sure that we were fed. And now I'm like watching kids in pretty nice school districts, like they're freaking out because a food program might be ending at their school. And there was their breakfast and lunch. And now they're just going to have to deal with being hungry. And those are kids. So instead of hitting me with a super thanks or trying to find some way of dropping cash on this stream right now, start planning, if you have the means, the month of November, food bank month. I kind of feel good making that a tradition, right? We did it a couple months back, and we ended up in one live stream. We raised $150 for the LA Food Bank in one 2-hour stream. What could we do over the entire month of November, right? And people, it's the most precious time of year. It's cold, it's difficult, and people are definitely facing more challenges than ever before. Kick a buck over to a food bank and put it in my name and send me the receipt, and you would totally make my day. I would have a much bigger smile on my face for seeing that receipt come in, or share it in a tweet, or DM me, or hit me up on the Discord, or anything. But do it, and like, I would be so much happier if that's what we turned the next month into. So anyway, let me shut up. I know, like, I was talking about messages, and like that just took me off on a tangent. I'm real foggy this week. Dave Burns, and this is exactly why I'm saying it. Money to food banks is one of the best ROIs for doing charitable good. Maximizing how far that dollar goes, man, I think it's real. There are a number of other organizations that we support charitably, especially in science and research, medicine and healthcare. Marie and I have like a chart, but when you see the statistics on like who's gonna go hungry today, and a small contribution means directly putting food in someone's mouth today. Not like, hey, I'm donating to this cause because hopefully in 10 years we can eradicate this part of this disease. That is so worth it. That is such a great contribution to society and to science, but also today, not in 10 years. Someone doesn't have 10 years for me to figure something out. Today, I can put $1 into this local food bank and know that they're going to use that dollar to go buy something that is going to put food on someone's table today. Is amazing. That's incredible. So anyway, Google Messages, it's going to be getting updated. The Pixels are going to get those features first. I think that's really cool. Messages, transcription, replies, all of that is stuff that is sorely lacking in our messaging platforms that all of the other like messaging and forum and Discord style apps have figured out. So it's nice to see them catch up. I did want to highlight this real quick. The embargo lifted today, and I don't have a video ready to go. I'm hoping the video will be out tomorrow. Again, just kind of playing nice. But the folks at One More sent over their new Aero True Wireless, and they're pretty good. True wireless earbuds. I like One More's tuning. I like the sound. But the big hook for these is it's their first earbud with cinematic 3D audio and spatial audio with head tracking. So it doesn't matter what platform or what music you're listening to, the earbuds themselves have this kind of tech built directly in, and it kind of links up with sort of the direction that your head was facing for the phone or the tablet that you have them connected to. And the earbuds themselves will manage that sort of spatial surround sound. And it's a pretty reasonable facsimile of a good like surround sound environment for a pair of inexpensive earbuds. So right now they're on an early bird, what is it? There's a $20 off coupon So they would be, here, let me just pull the website back up. I had it on screen. $109.99, and then there's a $20 off coupon to cut that for earbuds that can almost go toe-to-toe with some AirPods Pro 2. They're already starting full MSRP at about half the price, and you can cut 20 bucks off that. I've really enjoyed them. Oh, cool. El Jefe Review saying, oh man, spatial audio from One More. That's nice. I think they've done a good job of it. So far, my favorite is still Odyssey. The Odyssey Mobius gaming headset is still my all-time favorite head tracking. It's so precise. Like when you turn and like the way the soundscape kind of changes around you, those are incredible. If you don't want to wear big, heavy, clunky gaming headset cans, the One More's surprisingly competitive. I'm very impressed with what they've been able to pull off at this price. So what? Oh, I was just about to try and remember. Why do I try and use my brain? Jeff's in the chat. He already listed them out. The Liberty 4s, the Nura True, and the One More Aero, all getting spatial audio features. Very exciting. So again, this takes like when your phone can send a spatial audio, or excuse me, when your phone can do like a Dolby or a DTS surround sound mix, that's one thing. Now the earbuds are able to process this audio information on bud, so it doesn't matter what you're doing, it doesn't matter what phone you're using, what source you're sending from, the earbuds are handling all of it for you, and they're surprisingly affordable options to do it. So yeah, I absolutely agree, Jeff. This is really fun times for audio gear, both like higher end and more consumer facing. You know, like I just did the iFi, the Griffin, that's a $600 portable DAC. It's amazing. And then I also have this currently $90, $89.99, or wait, no, $99.99, no, $89.99. Yeah, I had that right. Sorry, the 99s were messing me up. It's $110, $20 off, 90 bucks. The One More's absolutely fantastic. Super, super fun stuff. Get this out of the way. Yeah, see, McCorcoran, that's absolutely, again, we're flush with so many good options. He writes, even just choosing which One More set to get is tricky. Comfo Buds Mini, Evo Buds go on sale for like 126 bucks sometimes, and those Evo are so good. I'm still mostly leaning on my Bear Dynamic. I really like those Freebirds, but the Evos are in regular rotation. I haven't been picking up my neck bands as much, that the Evos have gotten really good. And now these with the Aero, like they're just fun. I wouldn't say that they stand up against some of my really premium audio, high quality, you know, like awesome, but they're fun. They're just, hey, this is neat. I'm cooking in the kitchen and I set up my phone and I'm watching a movie and I'm moving around the kitchen. And yeah, they do a pretty good job of tracking where my phone is. So I'm stirring over at the stove and the audio is generally coming from the correct direction for me to then turn back at the phone to look at the video and then turn around again. That's fun. It's just neat. Okay, anyway. Oh, Baseball Super, if you're looking for a decent DAC, currently on patreon.com/somegadgetguy is a full review of my listening on the iFi Griffin, which is a portable DAC amp and one of the most flexible devices I've ever used in my entire audio listening career. This is another shameless plug for my subreddit. So as we kind of get into the last 20 minutes here, I want to spend some time just briefly recounting some of my experiences with Pixel and with the Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV. But I wanted to pull this up because it was an announcement, and I was actually very surprised that Apple didn't try to usurp the media around the Pixel 7 Pro. Like last year, the Pixel 6 Pro came out, and Apple had like an announcement that same week, and Samsung was also trying to compete with the bespoke Z Flip. You can kind of tell a lot of companies were taken by surprise at how inexpensive the Pixel 6 was, and it really disrupted things like the Galaxy FE. So iPad comes out, and here, let me pull this up here. And it's an iPad. There's a new iPad starting at $450. Here's the iPad Pro, now supercharged by the M2 Apple Silicon. So I just, let's learn more on the iPad Pro. And astonishing performance, incredibly advanced displays, super fast wireless connectivity, next level Apple Pencil capabilities, powerful new features in iPad OS 16, the ultimate iPad experience. And if we go to order now, my web connection is going real slow. There we go. Okay, let's just start with the 11-inch. We'll say space gray, and starts at 128 gig for $800. Okay, all right, I guess. But you can take it all the way up to 2 terabytes of storage for $1,900. And then you can do Wi-Fi and cellular, which takes it up to $2,100 for the 11-inch iPad, 2 terabytes, Wi-Fi, and cellular connection. So at this point, I think it's fair. Apple really is trying to make the iPad a potential computer replacement. That's always been their shtick to those iPad commercials. What's a computer? They're trying to make this like, hey, if you can work in this workflow with these types of apps and these types of services, it absolutely replaces a laptop. You'd have to add even more cash to get like your pencil and a keyboard, maybe one of those magic keyboard swivel docks, but you could do it, and you'd probably be kind of taking that price out to what, $2,400? Is that where we're at kind of roughly for the 11-inch? $2,500? Yeah, that could work. You could do that. And it's encouraging because, again, I hated it that it's always Apple that brings up this conversation, but we just got the announcement DaVinci Resolve is coming proper for the M2 powered iPads. So my favorite video editing piece of software is going to have a native version on the M2. That's insane. That's incredible. Like, if I were looking at buying a laptop for a mobile video editing rig, I would seriously consider an iPad Pro over a lot of laptops now. So it's just kind of tricky. Where Apple is in this kind of consumer conversation, the pros still fit in this weird master of none kind of segment where there's still so much that you would probably want to move over to a proper laptop. Apple won't give us a touchscreen version of Mac OS. Like, there's no native touch app configuration for Macs. So you can kind of replicate some of that on an iPad. And now with, Stage Manager, you can go multi-monitor, and that's kind of cool too. But it's still built more like a mobile operating system, more like a phone. And so Apple is still carving up these artificial divisions. Phones just do these basic phone things, but you can spend $1,200 on a phone that just does the phone stuff. And then tablets are this kind of in-betweener, and they do the tablet-y things. And if you want to split screen 2 apps, you can't do it on a phone, even though that would be awesome for the larger screened phones, but you can do it on your tablet. But not all of your apps are going to come to the tablet, so you still probably need a laptop, even though the tablet has the same kind of compute guts as the laptop. We're not going to give you all of the laptop stuff. You still have to make a choice on certain things working and certain things not. So it's tough. Out of all the Apple products from last year, when they announced the M1, I was critically excited because I was hoping it meant we were going to see even more synergy. If a developer is working really hard to bring an Apple Silicon M1 program to the Mac, then hopefully that means it's an easy development process to just bring it over to the iPad. That does help improve the perception of mobile compute work. I hate that Apple is given this kind of special consideration and they get to do it first and then everyone else has to follow. I think if a couple companies really got ahead of this conversation, they could disrupt a lot of computer sales and a lot of premium tablet sales looking at how we use our phones. But that takes money and effort, and if it fails, then it's going to cost a lot. And it's likely to fail for a couple years. It's not just going to take off instantly. It needs the runway to properly accomplish that. No one wants to invest in that runway. But we'll at least see it on the iPad. I think that's kind of positive. I really wish that you could do more with an iPad Pro. You know what I mean? Like if you have the same laptop guts in a Slate, give it that nudge. I'm very undignified, sort of in a very undignified manner. I am harassing the folks at Microsoft just to spend a little time with the new Surface Pro with the SQ3 because I think we're ready. I think we're ready in Microsoft land to finally start allowing for the potential of a consumer who needs these kinds of apps and services, doesn't care about legacy x86 software, is mostly working in a remote kind of organization or structure where the programs for Windows 11 would be sufficient, and they just really want that extra battery life. They don't care about having the craziest, highest tier of compute power in a portable Slate compute form factor. I think we're good. I think we can now acknowledge that a lot of those people exist and that there should be a product for those people in Windows land to do something similar with what we're doing in iPad land. You know, a Surface Pro 9 with an ARM chipset, to me, makes a lot of sense going up against an iPad Pro. I think that's fair. DTNO, ha ha ha, master of none. Got a drinking problem. I just splashed water all over my face. It was about to become a very different kind of podcast. Yeah, see, I mean, Farhan, I wonder if they really can. So Farhan writes, Apple can rework Mac OS for the iPad Pro, but they won't do that because it will hurt their MacBook sales. I used to say, like, oh, well, Apple could do this. I wonder if they could. When we saw Microsoft try and incorporate tablet-y stuff into Windows, man, did people freak out. I liked Windows 8. Windows 8 was really good. Windows 8 was great for bringing in, at the time, what a tablet-y UI should have resembled for that era. It wasn't perfect for desktops, and that's me being exceedingly kind. It was kind of crap when you had a big, huge monitor and you had these tiles. You would want to go back to a more traditional desktop. Totally understand. Totally get it. Did not miss the start button at all. I could not have cared less. And especially if you were already good with keyboard shortcuts, like, what did you need it for? You were just complaining to complain. But I would put it on a little Slate, especially like Windows RT, and it was awesome. It's still, again, like Windows Phone, one of my all-time favorite user interfaces for kind of navigating around a touch environment. Apple has never brought touch to Mac. I genuinely don't believe they have the skills or the capability to translate complicated mouse and keyboard commands into touch interactions. And now Microsoft has actually iterated on this since Windows 8. So now when you see Windows 11 and you can drag and things are persistent and gestures sort of follow and track better, and you very quickly can like roll up to a screen, get these options, dock panels to do like, I could do side by side or a 3 window configuration and it snaps perfectly. I honestly don't think Apple can do it. I don't think Apple can bring Mac OS into touch without years of struggling in the same way that Microsoft has. In translating all the little things that you take for granted, right-clicking. Okay, well that's got to be a different kind of gesture. Swiping, sliding, docking, snapping, minimizing, expanding, how to control the dock. I think they're trying to make Mac OS more like iPad OS, but if they were to just add touch to Mac OS, it wouldn't be good. It would be bad. And it's crazy because this is exactly where Windows 11 has actually been very successful in finally merging Windows 8 style interactions with Windows 10 UI consistency, and we get Windows 11. You're like, yeah, no, that kind of groks. That kind of makes sense. So yeah, I'll be curious. I really, really, really want to play with that Surface. This is like the first time in a while I'm maybe even been motivated to try and purchase one. I don't need it. That's the thing that kills me is like often when I buy things like that, it's because like I'm trying to demonstrate like this is something that I'm genuinely going to use for my own workflow. I don't know that the Surface would be that, but I might have to just kind of pull the trigger on it. We'll see. This holiday season is going to be kind of rough on the pocketbook anyway. So I wanted to kind of close out this show. Oh, hey, Sam. Sam's in the chat. Hey, everybody. 12L on the Duo just installed. Hold on. Do we have breaking news? Do we have breaking Microsoft Surface news? Hey, Sam, did you like how I had the Surface Duo 2 like in arm's reach? How like you posted this comment and I shared it in the podcast and I didn't even have to bend my torso to pick up my Duo 2 and have it ready. It was off, so I am booting it up right now, but it was immediately accessible. So now I'm going to make sure it connects to the Wi-Fi. We're doing this live, folks. This could be the most exciting news story of the week right now is the Surface Duo 2 finally getting its Android 12 update. Check for update. Check for update. Installing system update. 3.2 gigabits. So guess what video is coming out this week? Samuel, at the ready. Get ready or stay ready. Juan stays ready. 3.2 gig. All right, so that's installing now. It's not going to be done by the time I've got to wrap up this show. But expect a Surface Duo 2 video out very soon. Do I have... Okay, Duo 1 is on the bookshelf. So I'm just going to scooch back here real quick. Microsoft has been pretty good. I'm yelling like you can't hear me when I move back away from the camera. How about I don't yell because I'm on a wireless mic? How about that? You know, Juan's pretty good at doing the audio. I'm going to boot up my Duo 1 and see if this has anything to report on. I might need to charge this. I haven't fired it up in a while. I'll just plug it in right now. Oh, I'm so excited. Let's see if Duo 1 has an update ready to go too. All right. Yeah, Farhan, I can't wait for my own take on Android 12L. I gotta say, like, for all the people complaining, oh, it doesn't even have software up to date and stuff. These things have been running so well on the little bug fix and security patch updates, and they're not Android devices. They're very, very exciting to check out. So okay, checking for update, please. Ah. All right, so I just have a little 40 megabyte update on the Duo 1. I'm probably an update behind the Duo 2. So let me get that one installing and maybe we'll see if there's another exciting update for the Duo 1. But I'm gonna set this one down on the side. I don't need it right up at eye level. So that wasn't really supposed to be the wrap up on this week's podcast. Juan just opened up his Christmas present. I'm super excited. I really am. I was just seeing some of those little sneak peeks, like the UI changes and like adding some of those extra controls, like Android 13, whatever, you know. Oh man, the landscapers are like right outside my window right now. So I wanted to kind of get into the end of this. I've been playing around with a couple accessories for the Pixel 7 Pro. And one of the accessories that's kind of lit me up a little. Oh, I put it back on the bookshelf. Cases. I am not a case reviewer. I am not that guy who is going to have a roundup of the best cases for your new iPhone on my channel. That is not my gig. I am a nuts and bolts kind of reviewer. I want to dig into the functionality and the performance of different products and show how they might work for you, or maybe also as the buyer beware. I'm giving it a positive recommendation for these people, and if you don't fit in that camp, you should probably avoid this product. I've been very taken with the Peak design cases for the Pixel 6 Pro and the Pixel 7 Pro. And I feel they're important for two reasons. One, They're built with a very specific application in mind, namely content creation. And two, Peak Design is a very small company. They're not a huge lifestyle consumer electronics manufacturer or accessories manufacturer. They're not a big case manufacturer. So this is kind of surprising to me that Peak Design is making a case for the Pixel. It should be obvious that they would make a case for the iPhone, especially for content creation and photography. Everyone makes crap for the iPhone. It's even kind of understood why they're making something for Galaxy phones. Because of all the Android devices out there, it's more likely in North America that you own a Samsung than anything else. So I bought these. I have a relationship with Peak Design PR. They have not sent me anything since the, oh man, like the phone clip for the Peak Design travel tripod. Everything else has just been, I'm a fan of Peak Design and I like their gear. So this is the Peak Design case, and it has this little extra magnetized area sort of around where the charging coils would be. And it's a lot stickier than the sort of soft passive magnets that are around. And same thing with like the Galaxy. It's not really MagSafe. MagSafe is just a dumb brand name for Qi charging with extra magnets. But the Peak Design case gives you a bit more of that snap. But the thing that I'm really excited about is they've got this little bracket system. So there's a square in the back of the case that attaches to these mounts that they've created. This is proprietary. No one else is making this. It's only Peak Design accessories. But the consideration on how these interact with other Peak Design products is pretty cool. So you just kind of stick it to the back. You hear that snap and that click, and you've got a very rigidly, ruggedly attached durable solution for propping your phone up, mounting it to any other products. Right now I've got the tripod thread in there, but they also do make a mount specifically for their tripod, the little square bracket quick release shoe mount. You can pop it right onto their tripod and it's good to go. This to me is a very positive, it's a very encouraging step for Google. If a company like Peak Design is making an accessory platform accessible to the Pixel, hopefully that starts to change some of the perception on the Pixel as a competitive platform to Samsungs and iPhones. The Google case for my Pixel 6 Pro was awful. It is genuinely the absolute worst case I've ever used on a phone in my entire history of gadget reviewing. The official Pixel 6 Pro Google case was miserable. So I got a Peak Design case for my Pixel 6 Pro also. You just kind of snap it on there and it clicks and you've got a camera thing. And this actually came in handy where I was just doing a couple family photos. And instead of using the little, there's a phone clip on the Peak Design case. I can actually pull it here off camera. Come on. And it lives in the base of the Peak Design travel tripod. And it's these two little like kind of clips, and it's got like a little snappy thing, and it's retractable, and it's a little spring. This is super wobbly, and it breaks really easily. The little like the little posts that connect the teeth to the retractable bit crack. I've gone through 3 of these. So fixing their own problem, this case solution is going to be way, way better. So I've been excited about this. I've been really happy. I want to see manufacturers, accessory manufacturers, better support other phones. And I think it's also incumbent on me. I wanted to see Peak Design support the Pixel. I went and bought it. I didn't beg for a review unit. I just gave them some cash and they got an order out of me. They got 2 orders out of me, and now I've got a case that's much better on my Pixel than anything that Google sold for the Pixel 6 Pro. But here's what's kind of tricky. I also have gotten another phone in-house that it was late coming to the United States. I was very upset. I mean, again, I think Sony has done a very good job of bringing their phones out better than last year. They announced the XPERIA 1 Mark III, and then it still took most of the year before the One Mark III shipped. The One Mark IV wasn't much better, but it was better. They announced the One Mark IV. TK and I got to play with prototypes, and now the One Mark IV is really selling in North American retail. It started selling back in like September, but now in October, I finally have the One Mark IV back in house, and I also got a Spigen case and a which one did I get? Screen guard? It's over here. Super Shields. I got a Super Shields screen protector, so I feel I can take the Xperia One Mark IV out properly and really use it and really shoot on it. I mean, like to the point where I even have all of my little apps and shortcuts and folders the way that I would normally set up one of my daily driver phones, not just like for reviews and stuff. So like they're the same. I've got glare. Come on. So like almost exactly the same setup and configuration on the Sony as I do on my Pixel. And the more I'm using both of these phones, the more I'm kind of feeling like I've got a phone with a memory card slot and a headphone jack and a beautiful, gorgeous high-resolution display and a Qualcomm radio and modem for some of the areas where I have some difficulties. And I really like the auto mode performance on my Pixel. The camera sensors are great. That post-processing, I've been snapping these photos in super low light. Lex with her grandparents. I got this photo of Lex across a super dark dining room setup. We were out at a restaurant and it's across this table and it was super, super dark. You know, you just have like that one top-down light illuminating your food. So it was just the light bouncing off the table that's lighting up her face. Not enough to really get a good raw single image capture from a phone sensor. And the Pixel just nails this gorgeous shot of my daughter snuggling into her grandfather, you know, before dinner served. Stuff like that. The Pixel is just stunningly good at capturing those little moments, and like really latching onto them and processing the image so you get something usable out of a very challenging condition. And yet, I'll then pick up an Xperia One Mark IV and think like, but when Lex is playing, I can shoot 4K 120 and shoot this gorgeous slow motion footage of her like running around with her friends and laughing, and it's just so emotive and evocative, and it's so interesting to watch, you know, 4K 120. So I'm torn. I'm really proper stuck. The Pixel 6 Pro ended up with my SIM card kind of half and half with my LG V60. Even through a good chunk of last year, the V60 was still my fallback phone in between reviews. I'd finish up one phone and need a phone just to use as like a communications device. My SIM card would go back in the V60. The Pixel 6 Pro came around, and a good chunk of that time was mostly taken up by the 6 Pro. The Pixel 7 Pro has given me a lot of those same feels, but then what's my V60 corollary? I've got my daily driver, average consumer, mainstream Google product. That hasn't changed, but I don't have anything to replace the V60, and that's exactly where the Xperia kind of fits in. I don't have the desktop mode, but I've got the better camera controls, manual modes, the headphone jack. I don't have a quad DAC, but I do have a headphone jack and a memory card slot. So I can pop in my really big memory card and back that up on the phone and leave the enormous amount of built-in space more for software and for like 4K 120 video that I don't want to immediately offload to a memory card. So it's been really tough. That combo has been really tricky in my brain, but increasingly it's like also I really like the Pixel. I really like what Google's doing. I think it is the better mainstream consumer phone, but I'm not a mainstream consumer phone consumer. That sounded so dumb as it was coming out of my face. Oh, it was so awful. Oh, Soar Hunter, I just love the joy Juan shows talking about Peak Design. Their products are so good. That travel tripod has changed. I don't even set up my production tripod in the office. I use the travel tripod in the office. It is so nice to carry around. Yeah, I've got their sling over here on the side, the one that Amazon tried to rip off. Their everyday carry sling is fantastic. I really like the attention to detail that goes into all of their products is really, really clever. And even like They obviously make gear for higher level photographer style kinds of setups, but you get this travel tripod. There's not a lot of room on this tripod. This is like the most minimalistic, like compact design that you can have for a tripod that stands this tall. And they still manage to include these little details like a smartphone clip that hides in the center arm of, or I guess the center post of the tripod. And then that post design is built around being able to invert. So if you want to flip your camera upside down so that it's under the legs, you remove the little hook that hides this and it all like slides out and slides back in. I mean, like, it's like grown-up Legos, but with high-end photography equipment and with all these little touches that like they're acknowledging, like there are going to be times you're going to be out and about and you want to get this shot and you don't want to set up all of your DSLR gear, and you can probably get it from your phone. So why don't we make it as efficient and as fast as possible to get to your phone and mount it properly on a tripod to get this shot, so you're not just taking it handheld. It's like little things like that. Like, of course, it's such a good consideration. So yeah, I've been a huge fan of Peak design. So let's see. Dustadori saying I'm still rocking my G8, but it's starting to show its age a bit. It really is. My G8, I still bring it out from time to time. It hurts my heart to play with the G8 and the V50 because you kind of like have this feeling of, this is sort of peak Android. This is like we had crazy bleeding edge experimental stuff, and we still had headphone jacks and memory cards and higher resolution screens. I mean, really, it's like the golden age of smartphone design, and we didn't know how good we had it back then. Gormlord, does Sony have any sort of desktop mode? They don't have anything proprietary, but you can use the Android desktop environment, the alternate screen out for HDMI. Do they call it HDMI alt mode? It's something like that. I did a video on it, and actually I usually show that off on a OnePlus. OnePlus is, they'll usually get your beta, for the next Android version sooner. But when I compared was it the One Mark III? It might have been the One Mark III. It could have been the One Mark IV. But when I showcased that against the OnePlus 10, the Sony version was better. Like, it actually performed better, and the way that it displayed like your app drawer was functional, whereas on the OnePlus it was like it was the wrong display resolution or something, and it got all garbled up. So you couldn't just slide through your app drawer and select apps. It was kind of proper broken. But it's super minimalistic. Like, you can't even like really minimize and expand. Like, you don't even have a dock or anything like that. But it is functional where you can pull up an app and work on a larger slate and leave your phone as a phone just connected to whatever display you're using. It is nowhere near as sophisticated as LG Screen Plus, but it is kind of usable if you have a portable display or a laptop dock. And Farhan actually answered the exact same thing. There isn't one. All Sony and OnePlus did is enable the HDMI alt. So yeah, that's you do have access to it, and it can be useful. It can be functional, but it's not as nearly as good as like Moto Ready 4 or the Honor Magic UI desktop mode. Sorry, I'm like just catching up with the last couple comments here. Chris Lopez, I wonder what the photos would look like without Google's AI in their camera app. I mean, Pixel photos aren't necessarily all that. I mean, from a hardware level, we know this hardware really well. And you can always shoot RAW. So you can get and I think it's MRAW. I think it's a medium RAW. It is still a compressed image. It's not the full size that we know that these sensors can produce. It's usually like a 10 megabyte image, whereas the main sensor on this phone can shoot like a 20 meg RAW image. But you can always do that. You can always just, in your settings, you just click save the RAW file. And in that burst of photos that they take to stack and do all of their computational photography and AI manipulation, you'll slide out one RAW capture. And it's never as impressive as you think it's going to be from what the phone can process in a burst of images. Especially with their new like face unblurring, that has been really handy in cozy indoor lighting, taking photos of a rambunctious now 7-year-old. She's bouncing all over the place, and my hit rate has improved as Google has improved their face unblurring tech. So I can say, you know, like there are some shots, especially like with my grandparents visiting, her grandparents, my parents visiting. I probably wouldn't have been able to land on a Sony. As good as I am shooting raw and shooting manual and capturing the images that I want to catch and how fast the eye autofocus and shutter burst speed is, there are a couple photos I've landed now where anything but a pixel would have been very difficult to stick the landing. Oh, I don't. So Soar Hunter's asking, do you have the OnePlus 10T? Does that output its screen? I don't have the 10T. I was working with the folks at BBK. I still need to do like another kind of follow-up video on the iQOO. The iQOO 9T. I still haven't even finished that kind of stuff. I mean, I wanted to write an article about the Magic, the Honor Magic 4. That's a stellar. I mean, the problem we have is there's too much good stuff. And if I put energy and effort into writing an article on an amazing phone like the iQOO 9T or the Honor Magic 4 Pro or the Axon 40 Ultra, I know for a fact it will not get the traction. It will not get the search. No one's going to share it. Some people might read it and say, oh, that was neat. Thanks for writing that article. But like, even I'm falling into this as the guy who loves alternative phones. I have to be real choosy about what alternative phones I'm going to write about. And it sucks. I don't want to have to think like that. I'd rather just say, like, I'm writing this article because it was the right time to write this article, and this is the information that I think is relevant. But I also don't want to put all that effort and energy into getting buried online. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Oh, Lexus 7? Wow, time is flying, isn't it? I remember you being incredibly happy with the smooth lens switching feature on the V20 to be able to capture her first steps. Yeah, her first steps are ultra wide 4K from the LG V20, and that's the only reason why we got our first steps is because I could shoot it from the V20. It's, I mean, it's impressive to see how far we've come. It's real fun. It's real good. It's really good times. So, why don't we go ahead and wrap all this up here? I'm running a little long for the podcast, but for the shaky start that we had on this show, I'm feeling pretty good. Just checking in. Oh, we can restart. The system update is available now. So my Duo 2 is restarting, so be on the lookout for some content on the Duo 2 running Android 12L. I'm going to have a video out probably tomorrow on the One More Arrow. I think public, the iFi is going to go live on Wednesday, which is way longer than I intended it to, but that'll go live on Wednesday. I've got a follow-up video that I want to produce on the Sony. I've got some Pixel that I really want to talk about. I need to follow up. I haven't said anything about the Pixel Watch, and I've been using the Pixel Watch for a while now, and I have a lot of thoughts on that too. So this is going to be a real busy like catch-up week where, you know, a lot of the bigger channels got all this stuff early so they could kind of plan this stuff out. Guys like me and TK are having to scramble to catch up with what's going to make for a more interesting conversation at the same time that we're getting destroyed by the YouTube algorithm. But we still want to talk about it. That's the key. We still want to have a good time. So, folks, stay tuned. Tons and tons and tons of stuff coming out soon. Just to reiterate, we really appreciate the support. We are tech YouTubers. We try to contribute to conversations, and it helps. It helps to be able to spend this time away from other jobs and away from our families, making this cool content when we see a financial incentive for backing up our work. As we get closer to the holidays, as we get through Halloween and we start looking at Thanksgiving and Black Friday sales and what we're going to buy for each other, and a part of this message is also me kind of bucking some consumer trends. like turning every holiday into such a spendy, gift-giving, capitalist kind of commentary. Show your love by showing them you spent a lot. Even if it's not for me, even if it's not for TK, maybe consider the food bank donation as one of the gifts that you give. You think there are probably a couple family members who they don't need stuff from you, but you could give them this and say, we made this donation in your name because you taught me how to make that really awesome casserole that one time. I made this donation in your name because you taught me how to make corn tortillas from scratch, and that has changed how I make enchiladas. I'm making this charitable donation in your name because there was that one time I forgot my wallet at home and you hooked me up with lunch. And if you can make it that little bit of a personal message, not just, I donated $50 to a food bank, but you could add that little bit of a card. Hey, you know what? I was just thinking about this the other day, and there was that time I was really, really, really in a bad place, and you took me out and you bought me a milkshake, and we laughed about the show Firefly, and that meant the world to me. Like, you don't know how bad off I was. I needed that moment. I needed that milkshake. And I know someone else out there just needs to put spaghetti on the table so their kids don't go to bed hungry. And I thought you would appreciate that. That to me could be the next phase. For the month of November, in my videos, in my podcasts, I'm going to be making that plea more public, more forward facing, instead of sponsorships and ads and Patreon plugs and stuff like that. I'm going to be saying, for me, I'm going to be donating money to the LA Food Bank for the month of November, but also for yourself, for your own circles of family and friends. I just think it could be a nice gift, a nice, thoughtful way to talk about helping people at a time of year where that really matters. That really means a lot to folks out there. So thank you all for the support, for the views. For me, it's more about action than money. If it's sharing content that makes you happy, as opposed to trying to, sort of shame content that you disagree with, the positive action means so much more right now. The positive effort means so much more. The upvote on a Reddit post is so much more critical to the future of our hobby, to the future of these conversations than the negative, salacious, it's fun because it's drama BS that each of these social media platforms highlights aggressively. We have to be the gatekeepers and defenders of our hobbies, but not in the way that social media wants us to be. Not in the negative application, but in the positive application. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but it needs to be reinforced every single time we have one of these chats. Go be the change you want to see. Don't fall into the trap that social media creates for us where we're all miserable and bitter, because this stuff is way too much fun. I'm flipping my ish right now because I'm about to boot a Surface Duo 2 into Android 12L. That's like choir of angels. Who knew it would ever happen? So folks, I want you to have an amazing week. I want you to do awesome with your technology. I want you to be awesome with your technology. I want you to have fun. I want you to pick up your phone this week and do something you've never tried to do with your phone before. I want you to try and record a podcast or edit a video or draw a comic strip. I want you to try and probably fail, but to laugh along the way that you tried to do something ridiculous with your phone and it probably didn't work. And that's so much more fun than looking at a Geekbench score and saying, it should have been better for more monies. Like, forget all that. Ignore all that. Ignore me ranting and railing. Just go do something fun and do it for you. And I'll catch you back here next week for a pajama podcast on October 31st. So I need to get my butt in gear and get something fun for the pajama podcast next week because it's on Halloween. It is Halloween day. We're not going to talk about news at all. I'm going to have like a giant bowl of candy. I might turn it into like a candy mukbang. Who knows? It's going to be stupid. I'm so glad y'all are going to be along for the ride. So folks, I'll catch you back here next week. Be safe. Take care of yourself so you can take care of others. I'll catch you back here for Halloween. I love you all. Be safe. Take care. I'll catch you back.